It's first time. It says, welcome to TikTok Live. Have fun interacting with your viewers in real time. Creators must be 18 or older to go live. Check. Viewers must be 18 or older to recharge and send gifts. Remember to create a safe viewing experience by following our community guidelines. We're notifying viewers that you're live. I'm live. So we'll see. We're letting more viewers know you're live. I am new to TikTok, pretty much. I have been on YouTube for a minute and started on Instagram in the last year, I think it is. As far as my social media platforms, I have a healing ministry, and the healthcare industry doesn't want change. What was that? Mom sent something. I'm learning. Anyway, people let me know you're there. This is an experiment. A little bit about myself. I am the firstborn granddaughter of Dr. Earl Franklin Creighton. Dr. Creighton won the Texas Chiropractic College's Centennial Award in 1995. The best of the best. It's on TikTok something. Anyway, he was the best of the best of the industry. Tried to raise the standards of the field, and they weren't going to have it. Chiropractic is not there for the benefit of the patient, unfortunately, and I can prove that. A lot of people have family members that are chiropractors, or they are chiropractors. I have argued and debated with chiropractors. Figuring this out. I have argued and debated with chiropractors, physical therapists, medical doctors, for years. And anyway, they can't argue with me for very long, because ultimately I have a website and I have pictures of the atlantic occipital joint, which is where the head and the spine come together, and the textbooks are wrong. And I can show that, and I can prove it. I already have. And they don't like the fact that their education, their $250,000 plus whatever education, doesn't mean shit when I show them the pictures of the atlantic occipital joint that they know nothing about. I've got a few people. Hi guys. Hello. I'll repeat myself a little bit. I am the firstborn granddaughter of Dr. Earl Franklin Creighton, who won the Texas Chiropractic College's Centennial Award in 1995. He was the best of the best. I worked on the future board president in the state of Oklahoma, which is where I am, in 1991, and all I told him was I was Creighton's granddaughter, I know the work. He didn't ask me a single question. He just wanted me to fix his problem, and he was hurting. I found that out. Chiropractors are hurting. I don't hurt. I'm fixing to turn 60 years old. Don't hurt as a rule. Now, if my hip goes out of place, yeah, I'll move from feeling like I'm 20 years old to feeling like I'm 80 years old pretty fast. But fortunately, I know what to do to fix the problem. Got some people joining. Anyway, I'm out here looking for followers, I guess you could say, that are prepared and willing to see the failings in the healthcare industries and to try to do something about it. It needs change. I have been in my healing ministry for, since 1988. Going on May the 8th, I think it was. 36 years? 36 years. And I stepped in at the top, working on the board president. Like I said, all I told them was I'm Creighton's granddaughter, I know the work. There's absolutely no reason except for their ego as to the reason why my grandfather's work isn't out there for the world to enjoy and benefit from. But they don't want their patients well. They don't want them well. They want them to come back repeatedly. They care about their own wealth, their own finances, their own lifestyles. They don't give a shit about their patients. They honestly don't, from what I have seen. They don't. I've been contacted by numerous chiropractors. I don't know how many times I've had people tell me, oh my God, I haven't had a chance to learn Creighton's work. And then I'll shoot them a fee. And they don't want to pay. That's the problem. Here they paid $200,000 plus to be taught wrong. They expect me just to give it up for free. I've got a YouTube channel, and I was broadcasting on Pegasus public access television station in 2002, long before Johnson, the ring-dinger, ever, even thought about doing what he's done. He broadcast in 2012. I was 10 years ahead of him. They censored me. They fought to keep me quiet. In fact, I said in my, my last video, I was censored before censorship. Being censored was even cool. I need to pair up with, some of these, what do you call them? The free thinkers that are out there. You got comments? Let's see here. Do I have any comments? Anyway, I need to pair up with some of these people that are, actually have a presence, like, say, Joe Rogan. I'd love to be on Joe Rogan's podcast. I hear he doesn't believe in chiropractic, and neither do I, because chiropractic, like I said, passed on my grandfather's work. They weren't interested. They were not interested in improving their standards. They weren't. Grandpa, he told me about a time he was in Lubbock, Texas. He had, I'll show it to you on another time it's in the house. It's called the cartilage ligament rehabilitory device. It's a contraption that you can actually get in and holds your head up, pulls it up, and you can actually place your head and move it while it's in traction in order to rehabilitate that joint, the atlanto-occipital joint. Yeah, cartilage ligament rehabilitory device. And he said the chiropractors, he had a booth, he had it set up, and the chiropractors came by to check on it. And when they found out what the intention of the unit was to actually get the patient well, they were not interested. They weren't interested. So yeah, I have a very historical, 30 plus years in the trenches dealing with these idiots that do not want to improve their standards. I've been very vocal. My website has been live since 1999. I've blogged, argued, and debated with medical doctors, physical therapists, chiropractors, osteopaths, and I've silenced them. In fact, when I was up in Kansas, I had this booth with a massage therapist one day at the Harper County Fair. This young woman comes by, and she's looking at my literature on the table, and she says, do you have a website, is what she's telling me. And I said, yeah, why do you ask? She said, I have seen this documentation before. I said, really? And she said, oh yeah, I know this is the same one. And I said, well, tell me more. And she's telling me about how she was studying to be a medical transcriptionist. They were talking about the atlanto-occipital joint. She did her due diligence, looked on the internet, and I was in the top of the search engines on atlanto-occipital joint because I had actual pictures of it. And I was the only one out there that had anything like that. And she brought it to her instructor's attention, and she said, you guys are saying this over here, 2-facet design, 2 contact planes. She's saying this one over here, 4-facet design, entirely different. You can look that up. It's nsirtech.com/condyles, CONDYLES. And that's a very informative page. It's got links into the debates and the arguments that I had with the, it was Dr. Bill Kinzinger, who is now deceased. But he had an axe to grind with the chiropractors. He actually called me one day. He said that how the conversation started. He says, this is going to sound strange, is what he was telling me, because he called me. And he said, I was told by a Canadian attorney to call you. And I said, Bill Kinzinger? He said, yes. Anyway, so we spoke for a little bit, and I had to fight off the chiropractors because they came after me saying I was practicing chiropractic without a license. Well, if they never taught my grandfather's work, they can't regulate his field. They can't regulate his discoveries. They can't regulate his directives. They know nothing about it. They have no business trying to regulate it. What they're trying to do, they create a controversy so that they can control the competition. Because from what I have seen, and the sheer numbers of people that I have looked at in the course of 35 plus years, and being in the trench with this, is that my grandfather's work is so good that it can actually fix the problem. I mean, not to say that life can't happen again, you know, and you can't hurt yourself again, but, you know, if you fix the problem, and the real problem is the sacroiliac and the atlanto-occipital joint, it's not the spine, and my website has that information. That address is just simply nsirtech.com, and I think it's index 2. And anyway, I don't know if I can get on there. Give me a second. I'm going to see if I can find something. Hang on. I don't think I can. Anyway, I don't have it up, but it's nsirtech.com. If you want to look, if you want to learn more, link somewhere in the page. Take it into that. There was the documentation that the young woman found. I was talking about the, you know, what I'm doing. I'm a privately funded. I'm the only one that's actually backing it. But a research organization that's trying to spearhead needed change in the chiropractic industry. At the drop of a hat, because the man's hurting. If the man's really interested in what's best for his patients and there for the benefit of the public, you know, I should already be out there and this would be commonplace. It's not what happened. I was shocked. I was seriously disappointed. I mean, disillusioned and very angry about the fact that they don't care about the public. They don't care. You know, this vertebral artery dissection, and I did speak to Lori G. Mathiason's mother. You can find that information at nsirtech.com/proof. That's a rather involved page, and I've added to it recently. I have gone toe-to-toe with Gregory Johnson, the ring dinger, and Alex Tubio. He's got the tubio lift, whatever. I also found something recently on an old YouTube channel. I don't know how it was, several years ago. It is a copycat version. You know, they do not credit the the man who actually did it. It's generic. And that's telling on my videos. Shoot back in the last 5 to 10 videos. And I talk about where did the seated occipital lift come from. Well, it came from my grandfather. He perfected it, and like I said, they don't really want to fix the problem. I mean, think about it. If your patient gets well, they don't hurt, and they don't need your services, then what are you going to lose? You're going to lose a lot of money. And when I inquired with the chiropractic college, that's what they were talking about. It was all the money they made. You know, they made, I think they said they were number 8 on the list. You know, top 100 paying positions. They were number 8. And if you took out the sports figures, they were number 3, is what they had to say. So they're a multi-billion-dollar industry that has absolutely no intention whatsoever of fixing their patient or turning them loose. They just want them to continue to come in and, you know, pad their pocketbooks. And I can prove that. I can prove it. My website is documentary. My YouTube channel, my handle there is Tamar, T-A-M-A-R, 73736. It's my biblical name. My name's Tammy, by the way. My biblical name, Tamar, and the zip code that I grew up in, Fairmont, Oklahoma. That's where I came from, little bitty town. I'm a country girl, and tough, actually. Oldest of 4 girls. My dad wanted a boy. So basically, I'm my father's son. Even though I'm a girl, I walk like a man, work like a man, you know, and I can, you know, hang with the boys. In fact, I've worked circles around the younger guys. I don't know how many times. Chiropractors couldn't keep up with me if they actually came out and worked in the real world. And if I had a chance to actually compare toe-to-toe and head-to-head, you know, in a clinical study as to whose methods are better and what, you know, actually works, I'd beat them hands down, I guarantee you, what I have seen. And I can prove that, too. I can prove it. Just the simple fact that they fought so hard to keep me quiet, you know, and the censorship that I was put under 2002. They fought to get me off the air. In fact, Pegasus, the public access television station, went under because I was talking. The doctors didn't like hearing the truth. They didn't want people to know about the fact that, they could have their health and they didn't have to hurt. They just wanted their money. That's all they cared about. Anyway, anybody there, let me know. Are you hurting? Do you have a story to tell? I'd love to hear from somebody, as far as, an experience they've had with a chiropractor, good or bad. I'm not going to say they're all bad, but there is a lot of controversy in the chiropractic industry, and I am right smack dab in the heat of it, the center of it all, behind the closed doors. They don't want people to know that I'm out here. They just don't want it, and that's why they're so quiet. They're quiet. In fact, I had a professor tell me, back in 2000, he said, if they're going to win, he said, they're going to keep quiet. Yep. And then I got press. And that, let's see here, nsirtech.com/news_stories, I think it is. And that is, several, well, not just the Enid newspaper, but Oklahoma City, I think at least 3 different news stations jumped on board. I was interviewed by Channel 9, and I don't know if that's on here or not. That's on my YouTube channel, though, I'll tell you that. Yeah, like I said, the handle there is Tamar, Tamar 73736. I'd like to have some followers on there. Yeah, I could monetize. And then, I get paid for actually spreading the good news and letting people know what is available to them or should be available to them. And the simple fact that the chiropractors, are fighting so hard to keep quiet. They don't like, they don't want to argue with me. They don't want to recognize me. They pretend like I don't exist. Crickets. I think we discovered recently in the last couple of years, crickets mean one thing. It means they're wrong. It means they're wrong. It means they have no argument. It means they have nothing to say. It means they don't want anybody, they wish they weren't even there. They could dig a hole and crawl in it. They just soon do that. And they try to pretend like I don't exist. Well, I am very knowledgeable about the field. If I had a hard copy, I'd read you the news story when I won the lawsuit, because I did win the lawsuit against chiropractors. That you can find on my website, nsirtech.com. And it's, I don't know, let me think here. I think toward the bottom of the page it said the decision is finally in. You can look at that story. Yeah, and what's so funny is that the chiropractor, or the Enid newspaper, I had a friend tell me Enid Snooze and Eagle, Enid News and Eagle, Enid Snooze and Eagle. Oh, I was front page headlines. Front page headlines. I don't know how many times when I got sued. And then I won. I talked to him 2 months before, the hearing in the court. Are you going to go to print? Oh, yeah. And then I won. So, crickets, silence, the little guy won. The, press, are we surprised, didn't, actually break the news. I had a friend down in Mustang, veterinarian. He told me, he said, Tammy, he said, don't let them fool you. He said, if you were news when you got sued, you were news when you won. I even called Oklahoma City Channel 9. They came in and interviewed me. You guys want this story, the verdict is in. Oh, no, crickets, once again. So the powers that be are trying to keep John Q. Public, the people, suppressed and in prison, in pain, and poor. Because if you're not spending a fortune on your insurance and your fortune on your so-called health care, what do you got? You got money in your own pockets. You don't have money in their pockets. And that's the cold hard facts. So, who all's here anyway? If you're there, say hi. Come on, people. I had, let's see, coupons to get more viewers. Keep going. We're letting more viewers know you're live. Georgia Boyd joined. Heartaches joined. Boomwows joined. Anyway, I guess you could say this is an experiment. They say that, 1 in 5 people have a mental illness. One new message. Hi guys, let's see what we got. Oh. Anyway, this is an experiment. I had several people join. I have given a pretty good background as to who I am and what I'm up to. And you can find that on my website, nsirtech.com. I'm looking for people who are willing and capable to share their stories about any experience they've had with chiropractic, failings or otherwise. Most of them is failings, you know. Just because they might get you some temporary relief doesn't mean they've fixed anything or even want to. So, anyway. I would like to have some followers come over to my YouTube channel. My handle there is Tamar, Tamar 73736, and you know, subscribe. There's quite a few videos there, including the original show where I'm commemorating my grandfather's work, my grandfather's life's work. Lorenz 2021. God is always loving us. Hi, sissy. Not sure what you heard. Does anybody hear anything I said a little bit ago? I know live, and this is my first one. You look in, you go on, you know. I'm not sure how this whole thing works. I'm just kind of checking it out to see, you know, if there's any interaction, you know. I've noticed that it seems like there's a lot of people that it's like cliffhangers, you know, and a bunch of emotions, you know, weird fake stuff, you know. You know, I'm just very real. And I have a cause. So, I find myself in a position where I have to repeat myself. And like I said, first time, I was on another live a little bit ago, and it was very fake, you know, a bunch of people saying the woman was crazy, that kind of stuff, you know, which I kind of thought she was too. But I'm looking for anybody that's willing to, you know, share, you know, any horror story of, you know, anything they've had bad happen with the medical industry, you know, after COVID, you know. I think we finally caught on to what happened there. Yeah. In fact, I went up to Minneapolis, Minnesota, hooked into the Health Freedom Movement. Last conference was 2022, 2 years ago. And there was a nurse there that she basically broke down in tears. Yes, I'm on hospice and God is with us. Hospice. What is hospice exactly? I've heard that before. Is that end of life care or what is that? I'm not sure. I know most people have chronic pain, and chronic pain is something that they actually encourage to continue to go on. They depend on it in order to be able to keep their pockets lined, you know, because the research that I represent, from what I've seen, I mean, I've pulled people out of wheelchairs, you know. This one woman, I think the most extreme case I've handled, she was already bedridden. She had, I think it was multiple sclerosis. I think it was multiple sclerosis. She had a couple of family members here that knew me already, had benefited from my grandfather's research. They knew that I had something different, and I went up to end of life care. Yes, that's, I always have to wonder, you know, How old are you, can I ask? All I know is my grandfather always told me, he said, you know, you got to be alive, first of all. You know, if you're not alive, then, you know, there's no hope. 68, that's young. I'm fixing to turn 60. My grandfather lived almost 100 years, by the way. He was born in 1902. July the 6th, died January 13th, 2002. So, basically had access to a centurion. Very wise, very smart man. Had a moral fiber. He was a chiropractor, but he actually disproved chiropractic. Tried to raise their standards, and he got people out of wheelchairs. I mean, he pulled a woman out of a coma. He told me about that. And a colleague of his had actually put her in it. 68. Somebody else joined. Anyway, I just know that the healthcare industry is not there for the benefit of their patient. They're just not. And I hate to say that, but they're not. They depend on people to be in pain and sick. They especially depend on people to be in chronic pain. That's the biggest pain, back care, you know, back pain relief, whatever, headaches and such. That's the money makers, you know. My area of expertise is where my grandfather taught me. I studied with him for 14 years, working on the future board president in 1991. All I said was, I'm Creighton's granddaughter, I know the work. He didn't ask me anything. He just wanted me to fix him, is what he wanted. And I found out these chiropractors are hurting. They're hurting. You know, I don't hurt. I was shocked to find out how bad they are hurting. But they're hurting, and they're working on each other, and it's constant, you know. But the field that the methods that they have don't work. They just don't work. Anyway, I am natural redhead. My mom was 86 years old, 84, 86 when she went. She still had her red hair. I have been through hell and back in my life, you know, so I have some lines on my face because of the stress. But without that, people don't guess. And I'm in excellent shape. I don't hurt as a rule. I walk without pain. I have a gait that, you know, or people are envious of. And except for the lines on my face, nobody can believe I'm almost 60 years old. I'll be 60 August the 4th, 1964. I was always a Christian, but being so sick, I meet the real God. Yes, people just money maker for sure. Yeah, the healthcare industry is that's all they are. Anyway, I'm always wondering. I don't know. I just know my grandfather worked miracles. He worked miracles. I've done the same thing. And I always have to wonder. I mean, most people, and I've looked at a lot of people, most people, I'd say between 80 to 95% of our population have either their head and or their pelvis partly dislocated. And if you think about it, your pelvis is on a tilt. The spine is, you know, going to compensate and distort based on that tilt. The head, which weighs 10 to 15 pounds, is, you know, heavy and pressing down from the top on the shock absorber, you know, and the spine is going to twist and distort. You know, so you have your central nervous system that's basically under a literal physical attack. You have nerve signal interference taking place. Grandpa said garbage in, garbage out. The brain is not fully aware of what's going on in the body because it can't get the message through because, you know, of these subluxations, partial dislocations in the pelvis and the head. It's not the spine, it's the bookends. And the healer inside is not aware that it needs to go to work. Let's see here. Anyway, so that's what I do. I basically restore the body's ability to heal itself. And I'm always curious. I mean, every case I've heard from people, I've looked at people, you know. I have had people tell me about things that, you know, like side effects, you know, nice little things that they didn't expect to happen just by me placing the pelvis in the head. But I never know. Nutrition is important. You know, I've had a problem in the last couple of years with nosebleeds. I think it was something that I actually brought on myself. A habit. I wasn't using tissues to blow my nose. I was using paper towels. So I had an insult to my nose, and my nutrition wasn't as it should be, so I wasn't healing up properly on that. And I actually had a little bit of a problem for a while. So I started doing research on nutrition, skin health, and such. So nutrition is extremely important. You have to have the building blocks in order to be able to heal. You have to have the brain and the body and communication, you know, so that the healer inside knows that there's a problem so they can go to work. And, you know, God actually desires health and healing for us. We are innately well. That is what we are, innately well. You know, sickness, you know, is something the medical industry depends on. They're not really interested in health and healing. They don't care. Got a few more followers, or people that have come in. I find myself repeating myself. My grandfather is Dr. Earl Franklin Creighton. He won the Chiropractic College's Centennial Award in 1995, the best of the best. His research escaped the industry and went through the family. I'm the oldest granddaughter. I know I was hit over the head with a book when I was in 6th grade, I think it was. Crumpled me, basically, went down. And apparently, I found out years later, I never went to the doctor for it, but I remember Mom telling me about, you know, when I saw Grandpa that year, because he was in Texas and we're in Oklahoma. I see him like once a year, and he's very concerned. He touches my neck. He said, "What happened to her?" Anyway, it's 2000, Christmas I think it is, and he's telling me at the time, because I was trying to heal up, and he's telling me what I'm up against. And what he told me was, he said part of my neck was missing. And it was over here on this side. And my neck used to be like a cave over here on this side, like you couldn't even feel this side of my neck. And this one here had compensated for it. This side of it was stronger. But he said that basically I got hit over the head, which I did. I remember the moment in time. I have an osteoma right here, a bump. So basically my skull was cracked and my neck was broken. And I'm 8th grade. I walk away. Yeah, I walk away. And anyway, I have, for the most part, healed it up. They're telling me that this can't come back, but where I couldn't feel my neck on this side for the longest time, now I can feel it. I can actually feel it. I'm outside, and it's dark, but this is still bigger on this side. Anyway, I don't hurt. I don't hurt from that insult because, you know, my head got put in place. You know, I'm healed up. You know, I have access to the healer within that God has endowed us with, and that the healthcare industry really doesn't have any interest in coming to know, unfortunately. You'd be surprised how many doctors, massage therapists, you know, practitioners of all types I have worked on. Even the health freedom fighters. I'm shocked that they're not doing more. I know I worked on the daughter for their main attorney. And I also worked on his name was Clinton Miller. He was the grandfather of the health freedom movement. It took me 3 years to convince him that I knew what I was doing. It was the Thursday night right before the weekend conference convention, I think it was. I went up there, and I just kept talking to him. And then we're at the party before the conference. I'm on the inner circle because I came in with the right group. They got to know me a little bit. You know, I'm letting them know that, hey, there's a brand new field here that, you know, y'all need to be aware of. And we're at the buffet table. And I'm talking to him. I said, Clinton, I said, when are you going to let me work, you know, when are you going to let me take a look? You know, he knew that I had something different by that time. And he said, well, how about here in just a little bit? There's a room full of people. I said, here? He said, sure, let's just do it. Okay. So I, you know, am looking over, you know, 80-year-old plus Clinton Miller, the grandfather, you know, the father of the health freedom movement, you know, in a room full of people. I remember Jerry Johns, the nurse. I mean, I was thinking, oh my God, I hope I don't hurt this man, you know, because now I'm going to make or break it right here and now. you know, and it's like she was a vulture, gonna pick anybody apart if I heard him, because, you know, he's their father. He's the core of the movement. Anyway, found the problem. His pelvis was out of place. He's 80 years old, and he's looking like, I mean, he's moving like he's 80 years old. He's hurting, you can tell it. I can tell by the way people walk. You know, anyway, he was so stiff, I mean, so stiff, that I could barely move it because, you know, and usually when I put the pelvis in place, you know, I'll have the leg bent up, you know, pulled away from the ground a little bit, and he was maybe 6 inches from the ground. But I had my contact right, and I had the, my, you know, line of force right, and I fixed it. He jumps up off the floor, and I mean, ear to ear smile. It's like 20 years had just melted off of him. He's walking around this room, and he's just like, I mean, oh my God. He's shocked, you know, and he's the core of the movement. He's, you know, checked out the different modalities. He's aware of the problem in the Senate and the House. You know, he's a senator, actually. You know, he's aware of the issues with the government and what they're doing wrong about, you know, healthcare. And, you know, he's right there in the core and the heart of it all. And now he's all of a sudden he's had a chance to sample and experience what my grandfather did. And all of a sudden, I mean, it was just like 20 years had fallen off of him. And all of a sudden, he feels like he got hit with a ton of bricks, and he just sets down. I mean, just like, oh my God, down he goes. And I came up to him on the ground, you know, kind of, you know, get down on my knees, and I talked to him. I said, hey, Clinton, I said, are you okay? And he just looks at me, and he's like, he realized, I mean, he's taken 3 years to finally experience what I've been telling him for all this time. And he just looks at me, and he says, how do you do it? How do you do it? And I knew what he was telling me. And basically, I've got this miracle that I'm making that's just waiting to be plucked, you know. The tree of life, you know, in my hand, you know, offering it to the people to live and benefit from. You know, and that's how he saw it. That's how I see it. And nobody knows about it. And I practically broke into tears when I told him, I said, it's killing me. That's what I told him. And then he turns and he tells the group, because what they were doing was they were fighting off the pharmaceutical industry, I think it was, when, the vitamin supplement, you know, were under attack. DSHEA, D-S-H-E-A. I was right there in the middle of it all. I think that was 2004. And ultimately, once he gets to know me and all that, and they're fighting for the right for, you know, people's rights to choose their practitioner. They don't have to go see the medical doctor. They don't have to go see the chiropractor. They don't have to go see the osteopath. They get to choose who they want to see, whatever healer that is, you know. They're fighting for the rights to have access to the practitioners, you know, and licensing don't mean anything, you know. And he turns to the group and he says to them, he said, Tammy's the one. He said, she's the one that's going to break it open for the rest of us, is what he said. Well, that's what he said. That's how this started. So anyway, when I went up there 2 years ago, and it's Diane Miller's daughter. Diane Miller's the primary attorney. And she was there and she was hurting. And she said later, because, you know, she remembered me. It had been like 18 years since I've been back up there. And I talked about the night that I worked on Clinton, and I said, were you there that night? I said, you happened to be there. I was in the room, is what she told me. She said, I remember that moment. And what happens, too, the guy from Texas, and after I did what I did for Clinton, I mean, what was his name? Peter, I think it was. His hand goes up and he says, I'm next. And so I ended up working on Texas, too. Yeah, and she said, I was there, I was a witness. And she said, I was hurting. And she said, I knew we had this conference coming up. She said, I hoped you'd be here. She said, I knew that somebody had to have had, somebody will show up. And she said, here you are. So I worked on her, and I worked on several of them. Yeah. What I've got is what everybody needs. I've got the missing piece. Your pelvis has got to be in line. Your head has got to be placed right. And all these chiropractors, because they passed on my grandfather's work, and I can prove that in the paper trail, they have no authorization whatsoever to work the joints that they are. The only reason why they're getting into those areas now is because I have been so vocal. I got my website, I've got YouTube, I've got Instagram, I've got Patreon, and now I'm on TikTok. And I've been criticizing the chiropractors on YouTube for a couple of years, actually. They're quiet. Yeah. They know that I'm the expert. They know it. They absolutely and completely do not want people to have access to what I know. They don't want people to be aware that, they don't have to hurt. They don't want people to be aware that there's a miracle in the making. They don't want people to know. The first time I went up to Minneapolis, this conference, she was an attorney, actually. And I think she was in New Jersey or New York. And I was just doing networking, talking to the group and meeting people. And she tells me, she asked me, do the chiropractors call it the Creighton method, is what she told me. And I'm like, shocked. 3 steps back, shocked, amazed. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what they call it. And I said, how did you know that? She said, I have no idea. I cannot tell you how I've heard that now. She said, but I've heard it. So my grandfather was very well known. Anybody who was anybody in the chiropractic industry knew who my grandfather was. B.J. Palmer, the guy who popularized chiropractic for everybody. If it wasn't for B.J. Palmer and his, showmanship they learned from P.T. Barnum, because he ran away and joined the circus, actually, because him and his dad, D.D. Palmer, the founder of chiropractic, didn't get along. Grandpa was born in 1902, graduated in 1925, and B.J. Palmer knew my grandfather, as did my grandfather knew B.J. Palmer. So he was there in the thick of it in the early days. Yeah, and he had a moral fiber to him. Yeah, and he told me, he said, I didn't want, to be on call all the time. I have a life, I have a life. And he was very upset about the fact that the chiropractors lied to him. He told me, he said, they lied to me. And so, he had access to the real bones, which I'll pull out in another live. And they're in the house too. I'm not gonna get up and move around right now. But he had access to the real bones, and he found stuff in the bones that they weren't teaching in the textbooks, which is featured on my website. You can find that nsirtech.com. NSIR Tech stands for Nerve Signal Interference Removal Technologies. nsirtech.com/condyles. You can find that information on the internet. That's the direct link. I've blogged about the facts. Chiropractors and doctors don't want people to know about that. I've been poo-pooed and censored and laughed at and ridiculed, and yet, it comes down to it. But me and some doctor in a closed room, I'm the one that they're asking for help. That's how it goes. So, a lot of people joining here. Give me some hearts, folks. See what happens. Has anybody else said anything else? I got a like. Anyway, I'm just here to try to help people to understand that, there is change that should be coming. I am at the core and the heart of that movement, hooked into the health freedom movement. And, a lot of people, are going to lose a lot. You'd be surprised. Wealth is, people go into the healthcare industry to be rich. I worked on, my latest massage. Was supposed to pair it up with a massage therapist. We were both working in the Atwoods warehouse during the pandemic, and everything had closed down, because, it was what it was in the policy. So, well, Atwoods was a, what do we call it? I was an essential worker, farm and ranch, come from the farm myself, cattle and, food and that kind of stuff, the farmers. The farmers, without the farmers, my dad was a farmer, by the way. Without the farmers, we're not going to eat. Got a bunch more people joining. They said if you give me some hearts, there'll be more people that know that I'm out here. Anyway, so me and this massage therapist, she was hurting. I could tell it in the way she moved. She'd been hurting for quite a while. She'd been in a car accident, I think it was, hit from behind. Whiplash is what it was. But her head was out of place because, she got hit from behind. And I happen to be the expert in the world on that joint. So I talked to her about it. And she's telling me that she gets a message, because she's, intuitive or spiritually minded, and she gets a message, open your mind, is what she hears. It's not audible, but the message comes through. And I fully understand that experience myself. The higher powers are out there. God is interested, and he has talked to people about what I've got before. I had a minister one day, she told me, she was prepared and willing to go anywhere in the world. She was in agonizing pain. And she was on the internet looking for, an answer. And the message that she got, she said she was told, what you need is here. And then she found my pages. And I ended up being on Southgate Road, about 5 miles from her, just to the east. I came and seen her. And she talked about, her personal walk with God. And I talked to her about my personal walk with God and my healing ministry. And she benefited from what I had. She couldn't believe it, actually. But I told her as I'm leaving, I said, did I hear you right? She said, yes, you did. That's the first time I actually realized that the higher power, God, he or she, personally I think God's a woman at times. But, the higher power is apparently aware of my calling and my heart, and has told more than one person about me. What you need is here. She said, when I found you, she said, I knew it was you. And sure enough, I fixed it. Anyway, this massage therapist, open your mind. She was excited about the prospect of actually getting help. So after this insult, car accident, she was hit from behind and whiplash, and she's hurting. She experiences my grandfather's work. I put her hip and her head in place. Nobody else knows how to fix it, and I actually fixed it in, 2 pulls, bang, bang, 2 shots is all it takes. And she's like, oh my God. She couldn't believe the difference. And she was excited about the prospect of, pairing up. But I paired up with a massage therapist up in Harper, Kansas for a little while. And I went to work after I won the lawsuit against the chiropractors. I went to work in the Acupuncture College of America at the time in Oklahoma City, is now Oklahoma Healing Arts Institute, I think it is. And what happens, acupuncture. And what happens is that I get to the root cause of the problem, and the root cause of the problem is the pelvis and the head, which nobody really knows how to fix, and I'm the only one in the world that does what I do because my grandfather taught me, and he's the one that figured it out. And the business, they ultimately, the owners of the clinic, they're telling me, they said they depend on the repeat business. In the course of 3 months, I was down there on a Wednesday, for a couple hours. And I was working on their patients. They were so excited. They let the word out. They let it out. And I told them coming in the door, I said, if I find what I think I'm going to find, I said, you're going to have to think outside the box. I said, because I'm fixing to fix some problems, fixing to get to the root cause. I don't think they believed me. But sure enough, in that much time, their repeat business fell off to next to nothing because I fixed the problem. I fixed the problem. And ultimately, they're telling me, they said, Tammy, we depend on the repeat business. We can't afford to have you here, is what they're telling me. So they didn't want me to work on their patients anymore, but they wanted me to take care of them. And I'm like, I have a moral fiber, you know. And I'm like, what they're telling me is basically, here they are, the doctors, the owners, you know, they are the owners, the guys who have the money and are raking in the bucks, and they're telling me that they are depending on their patients to hurt and suffer so that they can make a fortune, pay their bills, and live their lifestyle. So they're wanting to take the gift that they had found in me that they were willing to share for a little while away from their patients. That's what they did. They were willing to take it away from their patients so that they could benefit financially. And what I told them was, I said, well, I said, if you're going to depend on your patients to hurt and suffer, I hate to do this to you, but I said, you're going to have to hurt along with them. That's what I told them. So, in the course of a couple of years, tried to work out the, you know, issue with them. But ultimately, you know, the bottom line, the almighty dollar, you know, was what they cared about. So they did finally, after I think it was 3 or 4 years, give me a reference. You can find that on my website too, nsirtech.com. And that's on the front page from the Oklahoma Healing Arts Institute, I think it is. It's a PDF file. I think it's PDF. Should be. I'll check on that. I think it's PDF file. But he does give me a reference, and he talks about, you know, how I'd worked on a lot of their patients, and that everybody was satisfied with it, and that I'd, you know, corrected. Her name was Ginger's. She had a curve in her spine that I'd corrected in just 3 sessions. And they were saying, what they said is that they had hoped, they, you know, wished that I was closer. I'm in Enid and they're in Oklahoma City, so that I could help more people. Well, it's not exactly how it happened, but that's what they did ultimately say. What they were depending on. They were depending on their patients to suffer and hurt so that they could benefit financially, and they could not afford to have me fix the problem. Because ultimately, you fix these problems with the ilionooccipital and sacroiliac joint, you know, give it a little time to heal, monitor it, and make sure it stays while it heals. You know, it doesn't just continue to slip. It doesn't go in and out. And you don't need an adjustment on a regular basis. You certainly don't need to come back in, you know, for a long period of time to have your back cracked or your neck cracked, you know, repeatedly, which is what the chiropractors are selling, is what they want. It's not the way to handle it. You set the pelvis, you set the head, you monitor the position of the head and the pelvis while the joints heal. You let the body and the brain communicate, and the healer is within. The healer is inside, and health is our natural state. You know, it is our natural state. You know, here I am almost 60 years old, and I don't hurt. I have been kicked by a 2,000-pound bull coming from the farm. I have been hit over the head by the quarterback of the football team and had a broken neck when I was in, I think it was 6th grade. You know. I have been in automobile accidents, you know. I have been, my ex-husband hit me over the side of the head with a hoe one day. We got into a fight, and he ended up, I'm surprised he didn't kill me. He probably came within about 1 inch of my temple or less. Anyway, I walked away from all of it, and I don't hurt. Nope. But if my hip goes out of place, and I've had a bilateral slip of the pelvis, which is both sides off at the same time. Oh my God, that hurts. What happened? I was working at Lowe's at the time, I think it was, and I was manhandling these heavy, it was extension cords, because I was in electrical and lighting, and I lifted wrong. And anyway, I might have had one out first. It takes me a couple of days sometimes to figure out there's a problem. And I'm my father's daughter, and he was a farmer, and I'm the oldest, and so I'm tough, and I just keep going. Anyway, both sides of the pelvis went off, and ultimately it's like somebody takes a knife and just stabs me through the pelvis and twists from the back is what it feels like. Oh my God. And it's like, oh crap. Anyway, I took my stool into work, and I'm talking to, you know, the assistant managers and people around. Hey, I can't function without this thing fixed. I know when you guys can do this for me. Just do what I tell you to. You know, look at what I'm telling you to look at and do what I tell you to. says it will end in 5 minutes. We have detected inactivity during your current live. Complete the verification to continue your current... Okay, hang on a second. Unable to verify. Let's see. Verification plan. Okay, there we go. So I guess I'm still here, guys. Anyway, what was I saying? So here I am, desperate to get, my pelvis in place. And I'm hurting. I mean, I remember this moment in time, I was trying to bend over and touch my toes, pick something up off the floor. And I mean, it's like, oh my God. And I mean, the pain just came out of my lungs and my voice, The guy in the next department over, he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not okay at all. And I told him, I said, are you willing to listen to me? Young man, I said, yeah. And I said, you could fix this. Anyway, so in the course of a couple of attempts, my instruction, well, I'm the one on the ground, and I got it fixed at work. And then I found myself working in the break room on some of the crew. One of the girls had fallen. She was in flooring, I think it was, and she took a tumble. Feet went out from underneath her, and she lands flat on her back, and she's hurting. And by now, some people kind of know, that I've got something. And I tell her, I said, I know something. I said, are you willing to have an open mind? She said, can you fix it? I said, might. So we go back to the break room. I looked her over, and I fixed it right then and there. She's like, oh my God, wow. She's telling people about it. She talked about it later on, too. One of the guys, he had a cane. He said he had MS, and he kind of walked with a little bit of, it's like his arm didn't work right, and he was walking with this cane. And looked him over, his head and his hip was out of place. I fixed that, and I mean, within a week or two, I basically pulled him off that cane, and he walked normal, stood up straight, and, ancient history. MS disappeared. She talked about that, too. Yep. One of the girls, she had headaches, a friend of mine, actually. Got to know her pretty good. She came from Georgia, I think it was. And Shell was her name. And she's at the computer checking, she's, signing off for the day, going home, and she's talking about this headache and how bad the pain she's in. And another guy from another department's over there. I said, I kind of know something, and he's like, Shell, you ought to listen to her. What's it going to hurt you? Anyway, we go back to the break room and fixed her, too. She couldn't believe that either. Anyway, it's very simple. Very basic stuff. But it gets to the root cause of the problem. You square up the bookends, takes the physical stress off the spine, puts the brain and the body back into communication. The healer within is aware of the problems, Like I said, our innate nature is health in the body. And things work. So, got a bunch of people joining. Hi, guys. Join hi. I don't know if there's, this is my first live. Don't know what I'm doing, honestly. So, I don't know if there's something I need to do. Does anybody want to tell me what I might need to know? I have made comments on other people's lives, but I've never had my own. I've got a bunch of people joining. I'll just rattle off a few names. I've got Amy, Rionda, Onion, something, Hunty, Malray, Marie, a bunch of joiners. Anyway, folks, I'm trying to get the word out to let the people, the public, John Q public, know that there is a healing art, brand new, according to y'all. It's been around for about, well, I'm almost 60 years old, so it's as old as I am. My grandfather graduated in 1925 from the Palmer School of Chiropractic, and by 1958, I think it is, he's disillusioned with his profession, chiropractor, pissed off, upset in the fact that they lied to him, and he quits. He's out. He goes down to Beaumont, Texas, is where he ends up, where my aunt was. And he goes into another line of business. He has his own business, he's a chiropractor, he has his own business, so he's a businessman. But the other business he got into, he was sandblasting houses, getting them ready for paint, I think it was. Anyway, it failed. So he went back into chiropractic. But he was determined that because he was so upset, they'd lied to him, that he was determined to, discover the truth of the human body. He told me once, he said he wanted to be the best. He said he read anatomy textbooks. I mean, medical dictionary and anatomy textbook. That's what he did. He read them. He'd already gotten his, diploma, certificate, whatever it was, in 1925. I mean, it wasn't a college, it was a school, but he'd already graduated. And he was a chiropractor. And here he is reading anatomy books, reading medical dictionaries, and he wanted to be the best. And he had access to the actual bones. He had a couple colleagues that he knew that had, specimens, which I actually own now. And I'll show you in another live. He had access to those, and he was poring over the bones, and he found things in those bones, the actual bones, that weren't being taught in the anatomy books. No. He taught me. I've featured that on my website. You can find it again, nsirtech.com/condyles. I don't think there's a way for me to comment, or I'd put it out there. But it's N as in Nancy, S as in Sam, I as in Ingrid, R as in Ralph, Tech, TECH, for technologies.com /condyles, CONDYLES. The condyles are the knobs that the head uses to rest on the atlas. So what he discovered in the bones is featured on my website. It has gotten a lot of attention through the years. I mean, I think I was in the top of the search engines for Atlanto-occipital joint for over 10 years, actually. I'm fairly positive that's a fact. I remember I had trackers on the website for a while, and, I could tell where people was coming in at. And I had Harvard University, the state of Oklahoma servers were hitting my website. I got sued for practicing chiropractic without a license, so, they were pouring over my information, trying to incriminate me in some way because they're saying I'm practicing chiropractic without a license in order to control the competition. They didn't want to have to compete with the true healer, And, I know Harvard was there, several colleges, I can't even think of the main colleges, but colleges from all over the United States was hitting my website. And they were looking for the picture of the Atlanto-occipital joint. Where is the picture of the Atlanto-occipital joint? And I was the only one that actually featured the, true design of the joint. I'm the only one that had real bones out there at the time. And like I said, I was in the top of the search engines for Atlanto-occipital joint for over 10 years. I had a chiropractor from Georgia one day. She called me up and starts the conversation. She says, I'm a chiropractor. She said, but I read medical journals. And she's pissed off. You could hear it in her voice. She's telling me, she said, who the hell are you? I was in the top of the search engines for Atlanto-occipital joint. She said, nobody knows more about that joint than I do, is what she's telling me. She'd woke me up, actually, early in the morning. And I talked to her for a couple hours. And by the end of the conversation, she had her moment of epiphany. She had that moment, had her epiphany, as Grandpa would say. And she said, oh my God. She said, you are the expert in the world on that joint. That's what she tells me. It's just her realization washed over, and she realized that, she didn't know so much. And she shocked me. I said, yeah, I guess so. I said, my grandfather's no longer here to speak for himself. He's the one that taught me. I'm just basically regurgitating to you what he told me. You're talking to me, you might as well be talking to him. I'm speaking for him. But he taught me 14 years, I am the spitting image of Earl Creighton. In fact, I kind of look like him a little bit. And, she realized. She told me then, too, she said, because there was a chiropractor from New York, I don't know how many times he called me, he was talking about how he wanted to get involved in the writing of the textbook. They want me to write this textbook, is what I'm told. I'm like, you guys are going to have to realize that you're wrong, first of all. You know, at this point in time, and I've been in it for 35 years, you know, it's a personal, this is personal between me and the chiropractors now. I mean, you can think of the movie National Treasure and that family, you know, that crazy family that was looking for the, you know, what was it that Nicolas Cage was looking for? Can't think of it at the moment in time, but, you know, the National Treasure. I'm that family. Yeah. And, you know, they don't want me to be heard. They've fought to keep me quiet. They have tried to paint me as a crazy person, although, like I said, when it comes down to it, me and a chiropractor in the fence post, I'm the one that they're asking, hey, can you fix this? You know. But after I work on them, and I worked on the board president, that's on my website too. After I work on them, you know, and I help them, and I'm hoping and, you know, childlike and doe-eyed and the, you know, prospect, they might actually get the word out, because here I've worked on the guy at the top, you know, oh my God, this is fixing to break open. Nope, they block the research instead. They don't want the patients to, they don't want people to have access. Nope. And like I said, I've been in it for over 35 years now. Stepped in at the top, talked to the colleges, I fought off the chiropractic board, you know. When they won the temporary injunction, which ultimately turned around and turned over because I won the permanent injunction hearing, I beat them. But in the preliminary, the Oklahoma Chiropractic Licensing Board reported to none other than the Federal Chiropractic Licensing Board. So I'm kind of, you know, chiropractic enemy number one, which Bill Kensinger, the medical doctor, they named him as chiropractic enemy number one. Well, I was the unnamed chiropractic enemy number one. They don't want people knowing my name. No. My name is Tammy Kennedy, TammyKennedy, by the way. Now that's my name. And I am on the internet. Earl Creighton, EARLCRATON, is my grandfather. You can look up Earl Creighton and you'll find several pages regarding him right now. My website is there, of course. And he was featured in Dynamic Chiropractic, I think it was. And there was an article that my mom wrote. Earl Franklin Creighton, A Man to Remember. I think that's online now, too. I know I've got it on my website. My website is exhaustive. I had a old boss tell me, she worked at the library. I used to work at the library. She said, they're asking for this book. She said, you've got it. It's in your website, is what she's telling me. Anyway, oh yeah, I go back to, I'm kind of rambling because there's not a whole lot, just people joining, and thank you. But this chiropractor from New York, you know, he's wanting to get involved in the writing of the textbook. And this chiropractor from Georgia, who realized that I was the expert in the world on the Atlanta occipital joint, I told her about, you know, in fact, he'd contacted me and what he wanted. And she's telling me, she said, don't trust him. She said the chiropractors are a bunch of wolves, is what she told me. She said they will hand you your hat and show you the door. She said I wouldn't trust any of them. Yep. And I've heard from chiropractors, and I've worked on chiropractors, and I've tried to talk to chiropractors, you know, and even the good guys, it's like, you know, they don't want to be associated. And here's the reason why. Because the chiropractic bylaws, I think it is, the way they've got it written up. Well, first things first, in Oklahoma, and they know that I'm in Oklahoma because Grandpa was in Enid, Oklahoma. I'm in Enid, Oklahoma. They know it. I worked on the board president for Oklahoma, 91. And they've got it written up where I think it's the 3rd degree of sanguinity, which is, like say, if you're related to a chiropractor as close as a granddaughter-grandfather relationship, that you are not allowed to be on the board. So basically, they have preemptively kicked me off the Board of Chiropractic Examiners, although I would be the perfect candidate for the non-licensed entity on that because I could steer them correctly. And they know that I've got Creighton's work at my disposal. They know it. And they know they don't have it. And they've tried to pick my brain for free. They tried to steal it from him. And I caught recently, I seriously caught them red-handed recently through none other than Alex Tubio and Gregory Johnson, the GOAT, is what they're calling Tubio, and the Ringdinger. They're trying to copycat my grandfather's work. This upward pull they're doing, and the y-axis adjustments, they're cracking. They consider a crack an adjustment. A crack is not an adjustment, by the way. The specific placement of the bone that's out of place a little bit, you got to fix it and correct the position of the affected bone to bring it back into a proper articulation. That's an adjustment. But these, new and improved, whatever versions of chiropractic, which they're just yanking on you. They didn't want to pay for the research. They got my videos because, I was broadcasted on Pegasus in 2002. They even brought those videos into the course. So I know they've got my videos. I broadcast, I got access to them recently. I put them back out there, and they're probably already circulated around with the chiropractors, so I need the people to see them so they know. And they're copyrighted in 2002. The original show is called A Day in the Life, #1, commemorating the life and research of Dr. Earl Franklin Creighton. That is on my YouTube channel. It's also on my Patreon account. All of the original programming that they censored and Pegasus, public access television station, was, basically, willed out of existence by the powerful elite in Enid, Oklahoma, is on my Patreon account right now. Yep. $5, I think, is what it is. You can become a member, I've got a small following over there. But basically, I have laid my heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears on the table trying to help people and got very little in return. Very little. Let's see here. Something sent, I can't tell you. But I gotta pay my bills. Sent TikTok Universe to Shawnee. Not sure what that is. Anyway, I gotta figure out how to get paid and, survive. I got bills like everybody else. And, I have basically given the work away for free. I've demonstrated on these chiropractors, I don't know how many times, in good faith, hoping and believing, doe-eyed, and thinking that if I could help them, that they'd let the work out to their patients because, it's the right thing to do. And it's not what happened. No. And like I said, I'm angry. Rightfully so. Righteous indignation definitely lives in me. Because, the healthcare industry is supposed to represent healing. Well, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. Not from what I've seen. Got a bunch of people joining. Let's see here. TikTok Universe to Diana. So I'm not sure. Like I said, this is my first TikTok, folks. They say give hearts. Trying to get a following. I've actually been in contact with my representatives here, in Oklahoma. There is something called the Sunset Law, and the Health Freedom Fighters up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, talked about, how the law is written up that if they aren't doing their jobs, which is to protect the public from, bad science, if they're not doing their job, they're supposed to be there for public safety. That's what they screamed, when they were, trying to shut me down, public safety. And I was saying the same thing. Here's my argument. Here they're trying to copycat something they know nothing about because they're watching my videos and they think that, oh, well, we've got to do it because, I'm so vocal, the public will eventually catch on to the truth. They'll figure it out. The people, not just the doctors, but the people will have their renaissance. They'll have their awakening. They'll have their moment, their epiphany, and they'll realize that, you know what? Enid, Oklahoma is where you need to be. That's where the answer is, because that's where the, Dr. Creighton's research is still alive and well. His granddaughter is the one that picked it up and, carried it. He told me, he said I was ready for Christopher Reeve's case, actually, which I tried to reach Christopher Reeve. I got a cookie cutter letter back saying, thank you for your information, but we're going to go through the medical profession, And I'm like, your head's out of place, dude. I can see it in the pictures. He's like this, your head's out of place. He'd fallen and he's broken his atlas, I think it was. But they stitched it up, it healed up. And by that time, nobody knows anything about, getting his head in place. And here I'm looking at it saying, his head's out of place. And Grandpa's telling me, he said, you're ready for Christopher Reeve's case, is what he's telling me. And I would have made the effort, would have taken one yank, and he could have possibly gotten up. I mean, seriously, from what I've seen. This woman, okay, I go up to Emporia, Kansas. I apologize, I'm rambling. But I go up to Emporia, Kansas because a couple of twins, they had, benefited from what I knew. They had an aunt who was already bedridden. She was in a contorted state. She is, I think it's multiple sclerosis. And I take my bench, I take a little bench up there with me, my white truck, which is right here. I actually took my white truck with me, if you can see it. It's back there. Anyway, my white Dodge Dakota. Put that bench in the back of my truck and I drove it up to Emporia, Kansas. And she's in the bed. She's, kind of contorted and pulled up and she can't move. And I'm like, I usually have to stand them up to determine what's going on with the pelvis. But, I've been doing this for so long now, I know what the goal is to figure out. I know what I need to be figuring out. So I'm looking at her in this bed, and ultimately I make a decision. My best guess, as Grandpa said. And, hi. So I made my best guess. And made one pull. One yank. And got it. I fixed it in one shot. And about 5 minutes later go by. And she stands up. I didn't even encourage her to do so. She's, I think, back in the wheelchair at this point in time. She's sitting up now. They get her set up in the wheelchair. Next thing I know, she's just standing up. And nobody said anything. We're all looking at her like, oh my God, what just happened? What just happened? And she's like, yeah. And just like all of a sudden it was just there. She could feel her body. In fact, my very first case. Okay, here's what happened. This guy, I'm down in Durant, Oklahoma at the time, is where I'm at. And I'm walking alongside the road with my young daughter, August. And we are going back to the house. And this guy is walking along the side of the road ahead of us a little bit. And I notice how he's walking because I see how people move. And he's, ultimately what the case is that he cannot feel the left half of his body, is what happens. He tells me his story. And what it is like 14 years before, he'd been hit in the back of the head by a baseball bat, dropped over a bridge, and left for dead. I don't know how long he was down there. And he gets left, the bottom of this creek. And then he's found. And ultimately, he ends up in a nursing home for I don't know how many years. He said he was in a coma. He said he could hear everything. He could hear everything, but he couldn't reach out. Anyway, finally he comes out of his coma. I had nothing to do with that. But it's like he couldn't feel the left side of his body, and it was like his arm kind of just dangled and hung there. He got in the way, and he couldn't feel his body. So he was determined he was going to walk, and doctors were telling him he wasn't going to walk. And anyway, so he basically, somehow manages to treat his left leg that he couldn't feel as a pogo stick, I guess you'd call it. He basically keeps it rigid long enough to where he can throw his, like say he's on his right side and he jumps, kind of throws his left pelvis out there. He can't feel it, but he can see it. So he throws his left leg out there in order to keep it rigid and give a, peg that he can, balance long enough to jump from his right leg to his right leg. And that's how he's walking. I see him now, and I'm looking at him, and I hollered at him, I said, hey, I said, your pelvis is out of place, is what I told him. And he said, what? Because he's talking to me. And here he is. I mean, he's in bad shape, and he's been like this for years. And I said, yeah. I said, your pelvis is out of place. And I said, my grandpa can fix that. And I just at that point in time was in a position where Grandpa was trying to get me to bring doctors in to learn it. And I had, you know, no calling at that point in time to actually be the one that was going to carry it. You know, I was just trying to get the doctors in on it, but I was, you know, sharing with people. And I saw how people moved and, you know, saw how they, you know, were hurting. And there he is. Anyway, so I take him down to Granbury, Texas. We're in Durant, Oklahoma. I think it's like a 3-hour drive. So I take him down to Granbury, Texas. And I kind of showed up unannounced with Grandpa. You know, I'm his granddaughter. I know how to get in the house, you know, if he's not there. I think he's at the grocery store. We get there. He doesn't expect us. You know, I'm like, he's here somewhere. You know, he'll be along, I'm sure. I said, let's just go in. So we go in the house, and we're just waiting outside on the deck. They built this house on Lake Granbury. He's on the tributary. And, hi. How was your day? I'm sharing a story right now. Anyway, so he sees Grandpa, and Grandpa looks him over. It took a while to make the determination as to where the head was at. But he spotted the problem with the pelvis right away. He said what happened was, in that case, same thing as me, he had a bilateral slip, bi is 2, so both sides of his pelvis had slipped off the sacrum is what happened. And it had been so long that he had, I think, ankylosis in the lower lumbars. So after Grandpa got his pelvis in place, he had to loosen up the lumbars and get them to give a little bit. And anyway, he fixes it when he's on the table, and his name was Alfred. He reported immediately. He said, before I ever got off the table, he said, I could feel my body. That's what he said. I mean, immediately. And then Grandpa took a while to determine what the position of the head was, and then he fixed it. And then he sends him out the room. And Grandpa sets me down, and he says, okay. He said, you want to do this work? Because I'd been talking to Grandpa for a while, and no chiropractors are biting on the fact that, you know, I'm out here, you know, the bait to bring them in. You know, nobody's doing anything about it. And I realized at that point in time, chiropractors don't really want this, you know, and I'm, you know, benefited from it. Grandpa saved my life, you know. Got hit over the head with a book when I was a kid and broke my skull. You know, my neck was broken, and that is a cracked skull. I think at that point in time, I knew my skull was cracked. I didn't know my neck was broken until later. But anyway, so he says, you want to do this work? He said, this is your case. He told me what to do. He said, sink or swim. That's what he told me. Sink or swim. And he told me what to do. And I followed up, and I duplicated what Grandpa had done long enough to get the guy to actually heal up. And in the course of 2 months' time, he stood up straight. He had full access of his arm. His hand was still a little bit, you know, handicapped. He didn't have full use of his fingers. But he had full use of his arm, and he wasn't kidding when he said he wanted to get him back in shape. I mean, his arm was atrophied when I first saw him, to the point where it was nothing but skin and bones. In the course of 2 months' time, I mean, he was a brick house on the right side. It was back on the left side. Yeah. He stood up straight. He walked normal. His speech had been slurred because, you know, his head was out of place, and even that was corrected. You know, it got a lot better. You could hear him. You could understand him. That was my first case. Yeah. Let's see here. Hope you are having a great day. Magnolia, I will talk to you soon. Anyway, my first live, folks. I do have to get up in the morning and go to the day job. But I would really hope and pray that some people would follow me. You know, I'm looking for new followers so that I can actually, because I told you I was trying to reach the House of Representatives and the Senate. and I've spoke to them, my representatives here. I am such a controversial figure, and like I said, I was sued for practicing chiropractic without a license. I did beat them. The local newspaper that ran the story when I got sued refused to go to print when I won the case. And, the healthcare industry and our government isn't really here for the benefit of the people, unfortunately. They're here to control us instead. And the last thing they want is for people to be free of pain. Because, if they're free of pain, then, the people's wealth, remains with them. It doesn't go to the state. It doesn't go to the doctors. It doesn't go to the elite that's in control. And what I'm here to do is I'm here to educate the people, to let them know, hey, there is a field, a healing art that is not recognized by the state, except for the fact that I already beat them, that is not licensed, that they have no jurisdiction over whatsoever because they did not teach my grandfather's research. They cannot regulate something they didn't teach. They tried to say they could, and I'm like, no, you can't. And you all know that I know what I'm doing, because when I tell you I'm Creighton's good at another work, they just want me to fix them. They don't care about any of my knowledge. They're hurting. And their colleagues can't help them. Their, fellow doctors, can't help them, and they're in pain. So when it comes down to it, and they realize that they've got the expert at their disposal, and here I am, they don't waste any time, and they want access for themselves. Anyway, that's the world we live in. So I'm hoping to glean some new followers and share the word about, the kingdom, the healing art that is so easy. And I don't know how many times I've turned to somebody that didn't know anything about it, at my instruction, because I am the expert in the world, so I know what I'm doing. But I can't actually instruct somebody that knows nothing about it in order to get access to the work that I need, because I can't take care of myself. I have to get outside myself in order to get these, problems fixed. And I can tell somebody that, knows nothing how to fix it. And I've done it. But I don't have to do it very often. Nope. Maybe twice a year, maybe. I have to have, something fixed, which is the adjustment. But it's not a crack, it's not a pop. That's not what it's about. No. So don't let the chiropractors lie to you and tell you that the crack is the adjustment. It's not. In fact, when I fought them off in the court, that's what they were talking about. Oh, the pop was the adjustment. I'm like, no. In fact, Grandpa told me, he said the best adjustment is the one that doesn't sound off. So you just got to know what the problem is. You got to know where the bone has moved to, where it needs to be. You got to know which bone it is that is affected. And when you get your contact and your line of force, your line of drive, right, whatever. And in this case is a pull. What I do is a pull. It don't take much. Doesn't take much at all. And you can actually place the affected bones back to where they need to be, correct the subluxation, the partial dislocation, put the brain and the body back into communication, and have access to the healer within. So, I have no idea how many people are on here. I just had a bunch of people join. If you're still here, give me a heart, I guess. Let me know that you're there, so I can see how many. People have just popped in and then went. I've done that I don't know how many times. But, see if anybody's there still. I have no idea what these are. It says go live, collect swag, June 3rd through July 3rd. Add live goal. I have no idea what that is. Let's see. Unlock live goal. Live goal viewers are more likely to send gifts for your content. Check out our requirements to see how you can unlock this feature. Let me see here. Check requirements. I'm looking into something, guys. Continue your live journey. 2 more steps before you can get more viewers, unlock something on tools, monetize your tools, access more features. Confirm your age, confirm you are 18 or older to get full live experience, learn more. Go live to no live. Go live for 30 minutes, go live on 3 separate days. I think I've been on here for longer than 30 minutes. Sent TikTok universe to so let's see here. Go live for 30 minutes. There's a check mark. Okay, so go live on 3 separate days. Okay, so I'm gonna have to come back on here 2 more times on 2 different days, and it is now after 12:30 where I'm at. So I guess the next time I'm gonna go live is in a couple of days. So anyway, it is 12:30 here, guys. I'm thankful for anybody. Great job. You've gone live for 39 minutes. Don't forget to take a break. Okay. And Polly Boris joined. Hi, guys. I'm new here. Looking for followers. My videos kind of talk about what my issues are, and I do have issues with the healthcare industry. I will talk about it at another time, but my daughter was killed in the healthcare industry, and in particular it was an osteopath that was in charge of her care after a car accident that would have killed anybody else. And follow the live creator. Thank you, Polly. There is a couple videos back there in my feed or thread or whatever videos that the helicopter was here. We are the ones that fought, and I mean, you know, to get improvements in the healthcare industry, somebody's got to die ultimately, because they're not prepared and willing to take responsibility willingly, and people have to die to get improvements, and people have to be willing to stand up and fight for those improvements as well. And I am somebody that you do not want to cross when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I have a sister who is an emergency room nurse, which is in the system. She's in the system, and she spoke their language. I'll tell you more about that another time. But we are the ones that brought in the Metaflight. We brought them in. My daughter's blood is the one that paid for that. You can find her story. It's at nsirtech.com/August, AUGUST, if you want to look at that. And there's some videos on my YouTube channel that actually, you know, on the anniversary date of the experience, which has been July the 29th, 2003 is when they killed her. She was almost 17 years old. But I'll talk more about that later, and you can look at, you know, that story. Anyway, I have firsthand been in the trenches. I am an alternative healer that represents major change in the, you know, world of healthcare. That, in all honesty, my grandfather's research has nothing to do with healthcare, because healthcare and healing are 2 entirely different animals. 2 entirely different animals. And I'm here to help the people. I'm here to set the people free. I'm here to inform the public of a field that has been suppressed for time, and that the doctors don't want anybody to know about. So I'm hoping you'll join me another time, and I'm hoping that you'll follow me. So go back and look at my videos, give me a heart, you know, spread the word. You know, I've got a person right now in Europe that's a subscriber to my Patreon account, you know, has asked me some questions, you know, and I have actually, because I'm getting a little bit of monetary, you know, assistance there. I'm in a position over there to actually do research. You know, I mean, I share the research I already know, but I spend my time to do more research, you know, into questions that they might not know about, that I might not know about. I'm very open-minded, and I share, but I need to pay my bills. So, in all honesty, the long story short and the easy way to solve this problem or to make me easily accessible to the world at large, is join my Patreon account. Nominal fee of $5. And I think you can find me there. Let's see here. Well, if you go to my YouTube channel, my handle there is Tamar, Tamar 73736. It's my biblical name in the little town of Fairmont, Oklahoma, where I came from, my zip code, where I grew up. If you go there, there's a direct link into my Patreon account for my YouTube channel. If you want to become, you know, a proponent for change in the world, you can help support me financially on that venue. And we can change the world as we know it. Yeah. Thanks, folks. I'll see you later, okay? I gotta figure this out. Bear with me for a moment. I do not know what I'm doing. Let's see. Let's see. I'm gonna tuck this right up here. Here we go. End live. 6 viewers are currently watching. Thanks, guys. I would really appreciate it if you'd follow me. And like I said, at least check out my YouTube channel. I can prove that the chiropractors tried to steal my grandfather's research. And my recent videos are fairly convincing, I do believe. Yep.